What if the easiest food you could grow at home didn't need a garden, a raised bed, or even a pot of soil? Just a jar, a little water, and a few days. Most people think growing real food takes time, space, and patience, but sprouts break all three of those rules. They're fast, cheap, incredibly productive for their size, and some of them deliver more nutrition than foods people spend far more money on. Today, I'm going to show you 20 of the best sprouts you can grow at home, ranked from surprisingly useful to genuinely hard to live without. And here's the best part. One of these can be on your plate by tomorrow night. Another tastes like sweet garden peas. And the number one sprout on this list is the one that makes a lot of people realize they never needed a backyard to start growing real food in the first place. If you like practical ways to grow food, save money, and make your kitchen work harder for you, subscribe. Let's start with number 20. Quinoa sprouts, the instant win. Quinoa sprouts are for impatient people, and I mean that in the best possible way. These are one of the fastest sprouts you can grow that still feel genuinely worth the effort. Tiny whitetails can appear in as little as 24 to 48 hours, which means you can start a batch tonight and be eating it tomorrow. They're light, slightly nutty, and easy to scatter over salads, grain bowls, or yogurt. To grow them, rinse raw quinoa extremely well. Soak it for about 4 to 6 hours, then drain and rinse 2 to 3 times a day. As soon as those little tails appear, they're ready. This is the sprout that proves the whole concept works almost immediately. Alfalfa sprouts, the classic starter. These are the sprouts most people recognize first. Light, fluffy, mild, and easy to slip into almost anything. Sandwiches, wraps, burgers, salads. They don't demand attention, which is exactly why they work. Soak about a tablespoon of alfalfa seed for 4 to 6 hours. Then rinse and drain twice a day in a jar with a mesh lid. In about 4 to 6 days, you'll have a full jar of bright, delicate sprouts. If you want something forgiving and familiar, this is one of the safest places to begin. Clover sprouts, the upgraded classic. Think of clover sprouts as alfalfa with a little more personality. They have a similar airy texture, but a slightly fuller flavor and a more substantial feel in a sandwich blend. They're grown almost the exact same way. Small seeds, short soak, twice daily rinsing, and about 4 to 6 days to harvest. They're great for anyone who likes the look and convenience of alfalfa, but wants something a little more interesting once the beginner stage wears off. Radish sprouts, the wake-up call. Radish sprouts are what you grow when you want your food to stop tasting flat. They're peppery, bright, sharp, and instantly noticeable. A small handful can wake up an entire plate. They usually sprout in 3 to 5 days. Soak the seeds for around 6 hours. Rinse twice daily and harvest when the stems are slender and the leaves have opened. They're excellent on avocado toast, egg dishes, sandwiches, and salads. This is where sprouts stop feeling like garnish and start feeling like flavor. Mustard sprouts, the bolder cousin. If radish sprouts are lively, mustard sprouts are louder. They bring a sharper heat and a stronger bite, which makes them perfect for anyone who likes foods with a little attitude. Grow them the same general way as radish seeds. Short soak, jar, twice daily rinses, harvest in around 3 to 5 days. They're fantastic in sandwiches, folded into tuna or egg salad, or layered into wraps where you'd normally want a streak of mustard. Only this time, it's fresh. Lentil sprouts, the pantry hero. This is where things start getting seriously practical. Lentil sprouts are cheap, easy, filling, and they don't require any special seed order. You can often start with what you already have in the kitchen. Use whole lentils. Soak them 8 to 12 hours, then rinse and drain twice daily. In 2 to 4 days, they'll push out small white tails and turn into one of the easiest high-value foods you can grow indoors. Toss them into salads, stir-fries, or grain bowls. They feel substantial, not decorative. This is real food. Mung bean sprouts, the grocery store staple. You've seen these 100 times in store containers and restaurant dishes. Crisp, juicy, mild, and incredibly useful. But once you grow them yourself, the store-bought version starts feeling weirdly expensive for what it is. Soak whole mung beans for 8 to 12 hours. Then rinse and drain twice a day. In 3 to 5 days, you'll have thick, classic bean sprouts ready for noodle bowls, soups, spring rolls, and quick sautés. These are the sprouts that make home growing feel immediately practical. Cabbage sprouts, the gentle daily sprout. Cabbage sprouts don't get much attention, which is exactly why they're underrated. They're mild, slightly sweet, and easy to work into meals without dominating them. Soak the seeds briefly, rinse twice daily, and harvest in about 4 to 6 days. They're great in tacos, rice bowls, sandwiches, and mixed sprout blends. For people who are curious about sprouts but nervous about stronger flavors, this is one of the easiest daily use options. Kale sprouts, the mild brassica. Kale sprouts give you that brassica family reputation in a smaller, softer, more approachable form. They have a fresh, lightly peppery taste and a clean feel that works really well in salads and sandwiches. They're easy to grow in a jar, usually ready in 4 to 6 days with a short soak and 2 rinses a day. They feel like a natural next step once you've done cabbage or alfalfa and want something with a little more character. Onion sprouts, the finishing move. Onion sprouts are thin, delicate, and way more useful than people expect. They bring that fresh onion edge without the heaviness of chopped raw onion, which makes them perfect for finishing a dish rather than overpowering it. Soak onion seeds for around 6 to 8 hours. Rinse twice daily and give them 5 to 7 days. Scatter them over eggs, soups, grain bowls, or roasted vegetables. These are the kind of sprouts that make simple food taste more intentional. Now, before we hit the top 10, if you're already seeing how little space this actually takes, hit the like button, because that's really the magic here. A jar, a countertop, a few rinses a day, and suddenly your kitchen is producing food instead of just storing it. Garlic sprouts, the pantry surprise. Garlic sprouts feel almost like cheating because sometimes they start themselves. That green shoot that comes out of an aging garlic clove is still useful, still edible, and still packed with flavor. You can encourage it by soaking whole cloves briefly, then placing them in a jar or on a damp surface and keeping them lightly moist. In about 5 to 7 days, green shoots emerge. Snip them and use them like garlic chives, or cook the whole sprouted clove. It's one of the simplest ways to get more life out of something most people would have ignored. Fenugreek sprouts, the functional one. Fenugreek sprouts are not trying to be neutral or crowd-pleasing. They're slightly bitter, a little earthy, and very distinctive. But that strong personality is exactly why some people end up loving them. They grow quickly, usually in 3 to 5 days, with a standard soak and rinse jar method. Start small. Mix them into soups, yogurt, or smoothies rather than eating a giant handful plain. These are for people who want their sprouts to do more than just sit there and look healthy. Chickpea sprouts, the meal builder. Chickpea sprouts are where sprouts start crossing the line from add-on to center-of-plate food. They're dense, satisfying, and actually filling enough to build a meal around. Soak dried chickpeas for 12 to 16 hours. Then rinse and drain them 2 to 3 times a day. In around 2 to 4 days, they'll develop short tails and become ready to eat. Toss them with lemon, olive oil, and salt, or roast them lightly for something crunchy and substantial. These don't feel like garnish. They feel like lunch. Buckwheat sprouts, the earthy workhorse. Buckwheat sprouts are a great option for anyone looking for something a little more substantial and a little less delicate. They have a nuttier, more grounded flavor than most jar sprouts. Use raw buckwheat groats, soak them briefly, rinse very thoroughly, and keep rinsing twice daily. In about 4 to 6 days, they're ready. They work well in salads, bowls, and even lightly toasted after sprouting. This is the kind of sprout that starts making your meals feel more complete. Wheatberry sprouts, the old world energy sprout. There's something ancient about sprouted wheat. It feels less like a trend and more like a rediscovered kitchen habit. Slightly sweet, chewy, and satisfying, these are different from the leafy sprouts most people imagine. Soak whole wheat berries for 8 to 12 hours. Then rinse and drain twice a day. In just 2 to 3 days, tiny tails appear, and that's your harvest window. Eat them as they are. Mix them into salads or blend them into homemade bread dough. They feel simple, but surprisingly substantial. Amaranth sprouts, the beautiful one. Amaranth sprouts bring something most sprouts don't, visual impact. Their tiny seeds turn into delicate, often pink-tinted sprouts that make even a plain plate look elevated. They're a little more delicate to handle because the seeds are so small, but they're still very doable. Fine mesh lid, short soak, careful rinsing, and around 5 to 7 days gets you there. These are wonderful as a finishing touch on salads, avocado toast, or anything you want to look just a little more special. Pea sprouts, the crowd pleaser. Pea sprouts are the ones that make skeptics change their mind. Sweet, fresh, and unmistakably garden-like, they taste like spring. Even people who say they don't care about sprouts usually get these immediately. Soak whole dried peas for 8 to 12 hours, then grow them in a roomy jar or tray, rinsing twice daily. In about 5 to 7 days, you'll have crisp, sweet sprouts and tendrils that are genuinely enjoyable to snack on straight from the container. These don't just check a nutrition box, they taste good. Sunflower sprouts, the market-worthy one. Sunflower sprouts are where the whole thing starts feeling premium. Thick stems, satisfying crunch, nutty flavor, real substance. These feel like something you'd buy at a fancy market and then wonder why it costs so much. They do better in a tray than a jar. Soak raw sunflower seeds overnight, spread them over a shallow growing medium, keep them moist, and harvest in about 7 to 10 days once they've leafed out. Slightly more effort, much bigger payoff. These are one of the first sprouts people get obsessed with. Flax sprouts, the advanced challenge. Flax sprouts are not the easiest on this list, and that's exactly why they're here near the top. They're for the moment when simple jar sprouting starts to feel normal and you want to try something more technical. Flax seeds form a gel when wet, so they need a shallow dish or tray and gentle misting rather than the usual rinse and drain method. In about 4 to 6 days, small sprouts emerge through that gel layer. It's fussier, it takes more attention. But when you pull it off, it feels like you've unlocked a completely different level of home growing. And now number 1. Broccoli sprouts, the one that changes everything. If there is one sprout that consistently makes people take this whole idea seriously, it's broccoli sprouts. They're fast, compact, easy to grow, and they've earned a reputation that goes way beyond healthy food. They're usually ready in 3 to 5 days. Soak broccoli sprouting seeds overnight, rinse and drain twice a day, and by the end of the week, you'll have a jar full of crisp young sprouts that fit into sandwiches, salads, smoothies, wraps, and bowls without much effort at all. But the real reason they land at number 1 is this. They combine everything people want in a first sprout. They're quick, they feel valuable, they don't need much room. They make you feel like your kitchen just became productive in a completely new way. And once you grow a jar of broccoli sprouts successfully, the mental shift happens. You stop thinking of food as something you only buy. You start seeing parts of it as something you can produce right there in days. That's the real takeaway from this list. These aren't garden projects that ask for a season. They're tiny systems you can run on a countertop, fast enough to keep your attention, cheap enough to start immediately, useful enough to become part of your week. Start with quinoa if you want a ridiculously fast result. Start with lentils if you want the easiest pantry win. Start with pea sprouts if flavor matters most. And start with broccoli if you want the one that gives you the full experience all at once. Then build from there. 1 jar becomes 2. 2 becomes a rotation. And before long, you've got fresh food growing in the same room where most people only keep packaged food sitting on a shelf. Drop a comment and tell me which one you'd start first. Quinoa for speed, pea sprouts for flavor, sunflower for that farmer's market feel, or broccoli for the full upgrade. And subscribe for more practical ways to grow real food at home. I'll see you in the next one.